folks, in this video we will explain to you the Battle of the Death, Darkseid versus Thanos, how the battle will go down. Yeah, we know both these villains are from two different comic universes, but that doesn't stop us from dreaming about how epic the battle between them would be. But seriously, if they ever met in battle, what would it look like? Perhaps DC went bankrupt and Disney acquired them. Then some new writer put them in the same universe. Are we making a lot of sense? Well, here's how the battle will go down, so stick around. Darkseid. Darkseid was not always that way. He was a prince known to Uxas. His parents were King Yuga Khan and Queen Hegra of the planet known as Apokolips. He had an elder brother named Drax, who was next in line to the throne. For clarity, this is not Drax from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Anyway, Drax cunningly devises a plan to take the throne ahead of his brother. Usually, anyone who was supposed to ascend the throne had to be passed through the fire of the Omega Force. But Drax killed Drax before he could do this. Drax then passed through the Force himself. Once the initiation was over, it turned Drax's skin into a dark, stony texture and transformed him into what you see. He renamed himself Darkseid, and it's supposed to be a play on the words dark and side. Afterwards, he fell in love with a scientist and sorceress on Apokolips named Suli. His mother, Queen Hegra, disapproved of this union and so ordered someone to poison Suli. By now, Darkseid and Suli had a son named Kalibak. Suli was eventually poisoned, and the queen offered Darkseid a new bride named Tigra, whom he hated. She bore him another son named Orion, who was destined to kill him, according to prophecy. Orion was eventually taken to a sister planet named New Genesis for his safety. Darkseid eventually poisoned his mother and assumed the role of supreme leader of Apokolips. As a new demigod, he didn't stop there. He hoped to destroy the free will of all beings in the universe, starting with obtaining the anti-life equation. And where else might he find it than in the minds of Earthlings? The ambition pitted him against Superman and the Justice League. His powers and abilities include an Omega beam he shoots from his eyes. This beam is capable of destroying matter in whatever form. It can also erase any object as if it never existed, as well as bring such objects back into existence. This beam derives its power from the Omega effect now contained in Darkseid. Darkseid can also teleport himself or other objects through space and time. He is effortlessly strong and fast, plus he knows how to fight, although he may never need to do that. And to complicate things even further, Darkseid has made a lot of copies of himself that are equally strong to do his bidding across the universe. His original form sits back in Apokolips within the Omega Force. The planet system he calls home is at the edge of the universe, and to get there, you'd have to be incredibly fast. So good luck to anyone who dares to find him. We already mentioned that Darkseid is a demigod and so occasionally exhibits godlike powers. He has been known to transpose two planets by switching their orbits between galaxies. It's like switching our dear Earth with Pluto. He even took total mental control of the inhabitants of an entire planet. Then there's the Omega Sanction Trap, where he can imprison his enemies. While in the trap, an enemy will live out countless lifetimes that all end badly. It's the ultimate purgatory. As the ruler of Apokolips, Darkseid commands a loyal army and has access to all of Apokolips's advanced technology. To put things in perspective, Darkseid has fought and destroyed the Silver Surfer, the entire Justice League, and even Zeus. Thanos. On his part, Thanos was a defective baby born to the Eternals, Alar, and Suisan. His birthplace was Titan, one of the moons of Saturn. He also had a brother named Eros of Titan. A little more of the family background suggests that he is the grandson of Kronos and a nephew of Zuras. His great-granduncle and aunt are Oceanus and Uranos. All in all, Thanos is supposed to be highborn. But as we mentioned, he was born with a defect because Thanos carries the Deviant gene. Here's a little background. When the Celestials created the Deviants, they also formed the Eternals with the same stuff. Eventually, these two races would be separated and fight against each other even though they originated from the same source material. It's like biology class, where you hear about dominant and recessive genes. At some point in a future generation, a random gene in your bloodline will suddenly show itself. And you might hear of a mutant baby coming into your family tree or something like that. In Thanos' case, it was the mutant gene, so Thanos came out looking ugly and purple. His mother knew this was a bad sign and tried to kill him, but her husband restrained her. Thanos grew up as a pacifist, only playing with his brother Eros and a few pets. As he grew, he became fascinated with the ideas of chaos and started to worship the goddess of death. He eventually fell in love with her, and this drove him to do terrible things in her name. Once he became an adult, he began to enhance himself and his powers. He was scientifically intelligent, so this ambition to have superhuman abilities came easy to him. He also employed a lot of mysticism and cybernetics to achieve his goals, like mixing the infinite magical powers of Doctor Strange with those of Cyborg from the DC stables. So you get the point. Next on his to-do list was becoming immortal. He tried to achieve this by fathering children. He even joined a band of pirates, but in both cases he didn't get what he was after. Then Mistress Death paid him a visit, and to please her, he killed all of his offspring and the whole pirate crew. Thanos wished to do a lot more for the love of Mistress Death, so he assembled an army and bombarded his home planet of Titan, killing millions in genocide. His craving to be all-powerful didn't stop there, and so he traveled to Earth to obtain the Cosmic Cube, but he was eventually defeated by the Avengers like in the Endgame movie. First and foremost, Thanos has the blood of the Eternals flowing through his veins, so anything the Eternals can do, he also can. Add that to the fact that he has been able to amplify his powers using mysticism and cybernetics, all of this makes him a very powerful mutant and villain. He is strong and fast. He has also become immortal and invulnerable. He can absorb cosmic energy and redirect it toward a target. He is telepathic and can manipulate any form of matter. Old age and disease do not affect him, nor do psychic attacks faze him. So Doctor Strange is better off not trying. Thanos is also hyper-intelligent. As a case in point, he created that fancy gauntlet, which he used to snap half of all life out of existence. Thanos versus Darkseid. If those two were pitted against each other while considering their unique abilities, here's how we think it would go. Perhaps they are destined to cross paths somehow when Darkseid steals Thanos' interdimensional chair, and so Thanos is forced to seek out the being who had the nerve to steal his chair. He eventually finds Darkseid reclining on the chair and orders him to give it back. Darkseid doesn't like his tone, but is confident he can teach Thanos a lesson. So they engage one another in battle, and Thanos is the first to throw a punch with the gauntlet fist, just so Darkseid can say he started it. Darkseid absorbs this fist like it's nothing. They're just getting started, and Darkseid quickly gains an advantage with a knee to Thanos' head. That has gotta hurt. He's dazed, and when he regains his senses, Darkseid attempts to blindside him with a dropkick, but Thanos grabs the ankle and swirls him several times before swinging him away. They are in New York City now, and Darkseid is unfazed by this latest attack. Thanos then uses the Reality Stone to bend gravity. Everything turns sideways, including the buildings. Darkseid seems to be saying, let's humor this guy and see where this is going. Darkseid tries to get up but is pummeled repeatedly by Thanos. Both combatants start throwing objects at each other with a little telekinesis. Taxicabs are used mostly, plus the odd helicopter. But that helicopter move from Darkseid is not very effective as Thanos sees it coming. So Darkseid resorts to using his Omega Beam. The beam zigzags towards Thanos, and did we mention that the Omega Beam works like a guided heat-seeking missile and will follow its target everywhere? Unfortunately, this doesn't work with Thanos, who fires a beam of his own. This beam temporarily knocks Darkseid out. When he comes around, they are both in space. Sorry, but another thing we failed to mention is that both guys can increase in size, and this is evident when they start throwing entire planets at each other. The back and forth continues until they both accidentally fall into the sun in all its molten glory. Then Thanos shows off his power by turning the sun into a black hole. And if you understand space stuff, black holes are far worse than sun-like stars. But Darkseid has experienced this before and wiggles out of the black hole. They re-engage with a lot more anger and frustration toward each other. More planets are tossed like stones. They both become so worked up that they simultaneously connect a punch that sends shockwaves across the galaxy. It also knocks them out. Thanos awakes first and decides to use his finger-snapping trick on Darkseid. Then he congratulates himself on why he didn't think of it earlier. But not so fast, amigo. Darkseid reappears somehow, and this baffles Thanos, who snaps his fingers multiple times with the same result. So Darkseid decides to let him out of his frustration by showing him the way. Thanos is led to the fourth world where Darkseid resides, but his seeming kindness is mistaken for weakness. He tries out his gauntlet snapping trick in this realm, but it comes off as ineffective. Apparently, the gauntlet can only work within the universe or dimension it originally comes from, so Thanos is toast in Darkseid's realm. Darkseid promptly locks him up in an Omega Sanction Trap to live out many lives of misery. So, thanks for watching, and please endeavor to tell us, in your opinion, who you think is a better villain. Leave your comments below. Cheers!